So I read Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, and the first book, the entire time I was reading it, all of the settings and the details were so like fairy tale picturesque that in my head it just looked like Candyland, the board game. So that is what this painting is of. I went into this not having read the Caravel series beforehand, and to be honest, I still haven't read it. I don't know if I will because I heard a lot of mixed reviews about it, but I thoroughly enjoyed Once Upon a Broken Heart. And the number one thing to start off right off the bat of why I liked it is that Evangeline Fox is not like that super strong, sassy, powerful FMC. You know, she's not Katniss Everdeen. She's more like Primrose Everdeen, I guess. Except I think Primrose is honestly even a little bit more capable. But it's a nice change because I feel like I resonate with her as a character more so than some of these badass ones because I mean, I have my badass moments, I think, but most of all, I feel like I'm soft. Like I'm a marshmallow. I am a marshmallow FMC in my own life. So it's nice reading that in a book. Like, she's not there to fight. She's not there to become a hero. She's just there to fall in love, you know? She just wants her love story. She just wants romance. She wants the simple things in life. And granted, she ends up going on a bunch of adventures and it's great and all, but she at her core is just soft. And it is nice to read something different because it's different, you know? Some might perceive her as weak, some might perceive her as whatever, but she did endure. Oh my gosh, that word. Endurance is great. I think I like an FMC that might not be strong off the gate, but her strength is endurance. Like she just takes on everything that is thrown with her and she just keeps moving forward because there's strength in that as well, you know? And I know people say that she was too trusting in her kind of softness and stuff. Like the fact that, you know, Marisol was like quite obviously against her and quite obviously doing like a lot of like untoward things, but she kept trying to make excuses and be like, no, my stepsister wouldn't do this, she wouldn't do that, this couldn't be her, that she couldn't be doing it. And people see it as like naive or, you know, whatever, immature, but I honestly resonated with that as well because I tend to see or try to see the best in people, and a lot of times it does get me in trouble, but it was like to me it was very believable. I know a lot of other people didn't think it was that believable. They thought she was just being dumb, but I'm like, here's a person, you know, her parents are gone, her stepmother is crap, and so she's trying to have a connection with her stepsister, and you know the stepmother's not that nice to her stepsister either, so she's like, you know, we have that in common, we can be there for each other, so she's always trying to look for the best in her sister, and so I don't think that's completely out there. I actually quite liked her for trying to constantly be like, no, Marisol wouldn't do that, no, she's great. Then we get to Jax, and I think Jax is an interesting character because, you know, obviously he's supposed to be morally gray, and most times when a character is morally gray, it's like, okay, are they actually morally gray? You know, there's like, are they, or is it just like light gray? Are they morally white, kind of? You know, like it's never that definitive, but for him, he's pretty terrible, like right from the get-go. There's not really a question about it, and sometimes you know, that's fun. There's not that ambiguity when you're trying to paint him to be a villain, but he's not actually a villain. Like Jax is a villain. Like he is villaining up. You know, he's living in his villain era, if you will. The best part about him, I think, is that he's a fate because then he has like a very reasonable excuse for being the way that he is. Because another thing with like the morally gray MMC is that, okay, you know, does he have a big enough excuse to be a villain? Like, is he redeemable? Like, is he just an asshole? Is he just cruel? Is he a dick? But then if you give him redeeming qualities, then he's not that morally gray, you know, because I feel like I see that a lot where it's like, oh yeah, he's so morally gray, but actually he is a fantastic guy underneath. He's just the light of the world. He just every so often has to make shitty decisions or do shitty things to protect the entire world or save everybody. You know what I'm saying? But he's a fate, you know, he runs off all emotion. So it's like an excuse. Like he is something different. He's not a human. He's not immortal. He's something else. And they run off of emotions. And he says it all the time that I don't function off the same human emotions as you do. So for me, it makes it better because it's like, okay, it's not like this wishy-washy thing. He is a fate. He does what he wants. We don't really understand him, or he's not really on our level of morality because he is not one of us. So for sure, one of my favorite things is just the dynamic, because I feel like a lot of romanticy these days kind of falls into the same general like dynamic, which I mean, it's a tried and true dynamic, the sassy FMC, the morally gray MMC. I mean, it's popular because it's good and everybody likes it, but it's always nice to have like a switch up. Like this is a proper morally gray MMC, and then the marshmallow soft little princess FMC. So it's a nice little switch up for sure. But even besides the pairing, I have to say, I mean, obviously, I said it was very mythical and fairy tale like. I'm painting a flipping Candyland board, or like a sad attempt of it. If you hadn't caught on, obviously, that's the heart shaped door, and the phoenix tree, and the arch, which looks like a doorway, but it is what it is. But I really liked the setting. I liked how whimsical it was. I like that, even the book is not a cozy romantasy, but it felt like a cozy romantasy because everything was just like beautiful gowns and like cakes with sugar bell cream or whatever. Like it was a vibe, and I would definitely, I mean, I don't know, I guess if Caravel is set in something like that, then maybe I should read it because I really liked the vibe and the environment of it all. Another kudos though for like the world building and the fairy tale esque feel of it all. I really liked her inclusion of bells and like how bells will do things. I don't know, like warn people or like alert people. Like when that bell was ringing nonstop at her and it ended up being Jack's place, being like, here, that drunken man or looking like he's drunken man actually lives here. That was so cute and so quaint. I don't know why I love that thing so much, honestly. There were a lot of questions though that I had about the fates, and now having read all three of them already, I will say that a lot of my questions are not so much answered. But when I went and did some research online, it seems like a lot of those answers are in the Caravel series. So I don't know, maybe it's really the world telling me to read those, but we'll see. One thing that I did find surprising though is that this book, more so than most books that are like a duology or a trilogy, had like a lot of open ended things. Like it really had a lot of questions left, like completely just unanswered, that really I was like, well, I need to know, the reason behind all of these things, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, it's good in the sense that it really kind of wraps you in, and if you're like me, you really want to get those answers and see what happens next. But then it's also bad sometimes because if it's too many mysteries, too many things, then you get a little bit lost in the sauce. But I think that she did like a pretty good like even ground somewhere in between. But I did, when I was looking at reviews, I did see a lot of people kind of complaining that there's too many plot holes. But then also when I was reading it, the reason why I could accept it a little bit better was knowing that I hadn't read the other series. So I was like, okay, well, I just assumed anything I didn't understand. I was like, honestly, they probably explained it in that book, and this is my fault for not having read it beforehand. Anyways, I can't say I'm a huge fan of the painting. There's parts of it that I like. This little pathway is definitely not one of them. But look at these dumb apples that I try to do because Jackson his apples. Whatever. Over time I'll get better, I'm sure.